Hello, members of the BDC Grant Committee. This short tutorial has been created to walk you through the steps required to access grant applications that the BDC has received through its online cloud-based submission portal. This video will explain how to use the tool from a reviewer's perspective, starting with how to set up your account all the way through to scoring an application. The BDC uses a submittable product, so don't be alarmed when you receive an email from that company. The email will prompt you to accept the BDC's invitation granting you access to become an application manager. Here's an example of the submittable invite email. Follow the instructions in this email to create your reviewer account. As you can see, the submittable notification message includes a link to accept the invitation, which will guide us through the initial reviewer account setup. Please be sure to let one of us in the BDC office know if you prefer a different email address be used to establish your account. We will update your submittable invitation email accordingly. After clicking the link to accept the invitation, you will be automatically directed to a new web page, like this one, where you'll be able to finish registering your account. Please note that no one at the BDC or with Submittable has access to your password. Be sure to write it down or just plan on resetting it every time you log in. The interface is extremely user-friendly, so just like when setting up any other online account, be sure to enter a password, your first name and your last name, and then click Accept Invite. Finally, you'll need to decide if you wish to receive updates from Submittable about its products and services. I've opted out and assume you'll probably wish to do the same. Once you've made those preference choices, click Continue. Congratulations, you finished your account setup. I'm going to take just a minute to highlight several ways you can customize your account's interface. By default, you'll be directed to your Applications dashboard. From this dashboard, you'll be able to filter through application results, select the number of results you wish to see per page, as well as determine whether or not you want to see active, archived, or both active and archived applications. Within 2 to 3 business days after any given grant cycle submission deadline, you will be assigned all of the eligible applications to be reviewed. A message will be sent to the email address associated with your reviewer account, informing you that applications are available and require your attention. As a reminder, the BDC grant application notification emails are sent directly from the BDC's Submittable online portal and might be filtered into your junk or spam folders. Preemptively, you can overwrite your email server's default filters by adding the notification email address to your contacts. From your inbox, you can follow the link to be directed to your assigned applications. Once rerouted to your application dashboard, you'll see your list of applications and can determine which still need to be reviewed by you based on its status. You can see from your application dashboard that the example Burlington Downtown Corporation application right here is tagged to inform you that this applicant is seeking grant funding for a business development grant. The application column will always signify the name of the business applying for funds, particularly with business development grants, and the applicant column will represent and identify the person representing that business. You can also see what grant form they've completed. This is the 2019 Downtown Small Grant Program for Quarter 4, the date that the application was submitted, the status of the application, as well as who has been assigned to review this particular application. To review an individual application, simply click on its title from the list on your dashboard. The online portal will present the application in a split screen. Don't forget that you're able to tweak the layout to your liking by expanding or shrinking either side of the screen simply by dragging the scrolling bar to the left or right. The left side of the screen is the actual application. This is the information that the business or property owner has submitted in response to questions from the grant application. By scrolling to the end of the application, you will find the supplemental documentation that is required. There are two ways to view these attached files. The first is to view it in Submittable by clicking this curved arrow. As you can see, the document will open directly in your review screen. If you prefer to download the files, use the download icon, which is just to the right of the curved arrow. Remember that all documents in a grant application dossier are considered confidential. Should you choose to download any or all of the supplemental files, please take the utmost care in protecting the information provided by each applicant. As you remember, the committee has identified the criteria by which to grade each application. Additionally, the committee implemented a weighted score to ensure that the most critical criteria influence a project's value and competitiveness more heavily. On the right side of the screen is where you will be able to score each application. Reviewers are asked to rate each application on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest possible score and 10 being the highest. The criteria description and criteria scoring weights are included below for your reference. They can also be found on the BDC's webpage at burlingtondowntown.com/small-grants. Please note that each criteria's weighted value has already been assigned to the scoring values between 1 and 10. The application's total score will be calculated on a 200-point scale, simply due to the nature of this online tool. Simply divide your overall score by 2 and you will get the total score based on a 100-point scale. For example, should you rate this test or example application at a score of 140, divide by 2, and the application's true score will be 70. If you recall from the grading criteria outlined by the grant committee, any applicant receiving a score of 70 or greater will be eligible to be considered for this granting cycle's dollars. At the top of the right side of the page, you'll see an activity tab, which will show you everything that has been done thus far by all members of the Burlington Downtown Submittable team. You can see here that when the applicant submitted their application, they received an email automatically sponsored by the Submittable tool that thanked them for their application and that the grant committee would be in touch as soon as possible. You can also see where this application was assigned to the BDC Submittable reviewer, and any supplemental notes or assignments or ratings that have already been given by other team members will show up here as well. As I had mentioned earlier, this particular grant application had a label identifying it as a business development grant. You can also see a cumulative record of all of the labels that this particular application has. Under the Review tab at the very top on the right-hand side is again where you will find your criteria for grading this application. I am, just for argument's sake, going to go through this application and score it at the highest level it could. You'll see that any score between 1 and 10 is a required response from you as a reviewer. You've also have the opportunity to identify or list any additional comments regarding that particular criteria in regards to this application, should you wish. But please note that it is not required to submit detailed information or comments, just simply completing the 1 to 10 score. For the one question about grant funds previously being allocated, simply identify a 1 if it has been, if this particular business or property has received grants in the past, or a 10 if it has not. These answers will automatically be weighted towards the overall score. But again, on the overall grading, the weight for this one, as you can see up here, is only 10%. Let's say that yes, this business owner is in good standing. Yes, this particular project will definitely contribute to this business being a collaborator within the municipal service district, and we have no other comments. You can either save the draft if you get pulled away or feel like you need to conduct more research before you can fully submit your application your review of the application, or you can finalize your review. Right here at the top, this particular application received a score of 200. Again, like I mentioned before, divide by 200 and the actual score on a 100-point scale would be 100%. Since this application received higher than 70%, it would move forward for discussion amongst the grant committee members for consideration for funding in this cycle. You do have the option to update your review. So just because you've finalized and submitted your review and your score does not mean that you are dedicated or committed to those responses. You have the option to go back and tweak these answers, particularly after discussion with the grant committee. 2 other points is that you are able to download your review using this download tab right here at the far right corner of the right side of the screen. At the very far right of the right half of the submittable screen, you can see a tab for messages. Although we've provided spaces for you in the review tab to include additional comments and messages, you're also able to do so right here. For example, if you know information about this particular applicant and you want one person to know on the grant review team, you can address this message to that person. Give it a subject and a body in the subject just like any other email, and you can even attach files. So if, for example, you know that this particular property received $25,000 in grants but is in default and is now the new owner is now seeking another $25,000 grant from the BDC, and you have documentation to support that, you can include it right here. And again, you're not limited to the number of team members that you can send these messages to, but this feature allows you to target one particular team member if you guys have some information or some back and forth that would be necessary or pertinent to the larger group. Now that we've submitted our review of this particular applicant, you can go back to the Activity tab and see that the reviewer BD Corp Submittable has submitted its final score and review of this application. Again, you have another opportunity to add any additional notes that you think folks on the review team need to know, or you can add or attach any additional documentation. This about sums it up. Once you've completed your review of the application, assuming there are more than one in this particular granting cycle, you can scroll back and forth using the arrows at the top left of the screen, or you can simply go back to the list. Once you're back at the list, you will see to the left of each application a cumulative average of scores. This component of the application dashboard will allow us to filter out applications that have received a score of 140 or higher, so that those are the only projects for discussion during the grant committee meeting. Should you encounter any IT troubles during this process, you can contact me or Sarah Beth at the BDC. After hours and even during hours, texting is preferable. Or you can visit the Submittable Help Center 24 hours a day at submittable.help. From the Help Center online, you have access to an interactive chat window or the phone number that will allow you to contact support 24 hours a day. The account that the BDC has with Submittable offers this support not only to reviewers and staff of the BDC, but also to applicants as well. Please let me know if you have any questions, and in the meantime, I hope you have fun reviewing this granting cycle's applications.